Today we're going to unpack how two ancient religious ideas you probably never even heard of have shaped, well, pretty much everything. We're talking about orthopraxy and orthodoxy, and believe me, they've influenced everything from the holidays you celebrate to the very fabric of societies across the entire globe. So let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start with a puzzle. Over in Latin America, colonialism led to centuries of cultural and genetic mixing, right? It created these vibrant mixed heritage societies. But in North America, the story is very different. The colonial legacy there is one of much starker racial segregation. How is it possible that the same continent produced two completely different social outcomes?
Well, the answer isn't just about economics or politics, though those things matter. The real key lies in theology. Yep, it's all about two ancient concepts that basically acted like the core operating systems for the Spanish Catholic and the English Protestant colonizers.
All right, so let's break down these two really powerful ideas. They represent this fundamental split in how religion can even function. Is it about what you do, or is it about what you think?
So, first up is orthopraxy. And this was the model for Catholicism. The priority here is all about correct practice. Did you get baptized? Did you take communion? Are you doing the rituals right? Your internal, private beliefs could be a little fuzzy, to be honest. But as long as you participated in the life of the church, you were in.
And then on the other side of the coin, you've got orthodoxy. This became absolutely central to Protestantism after the Reformation, and here the focus just completely shifts. The crucial thing is correct belief. You have to understand the doctrine, you have to accept it in your heart, and you have to have a pure faith. What you think is literally everything.
So you can think of them as two totally different social operating systems. Catholicism, being all about practice, orthoprax, could actually tolerate a lot of different local beliefs, just as long as people showed up and did the rituals. But Protestantism, being orthodox, demanded total, complete doctrinal purity. And this single difference? Wow, it would have absolutely massive consequences.
So when these two versions of Christianity went out to convert the world, they naturally took on completely different strategies, each one dictated by its own core logic.
The Catholic strategy was all about absorption. Instead of just destroying local cultures, the Church was incredibly good at folding them in. This whole process is called syncretism. It's the blending of different beliefs and practices. And you have to understand, this wasn't an accident. This was deliberate policy.
And this strategy, it goes way, way back. This is a quote from Pope Gregory the Great, all the way back in 601 AD. He is explicitly telling missionaries, hey, don't erase local traditions, rebrand them. He got it. He understood that you can't just force people to abandon their entire culture overnight. You have to meet them where they are.
And you can see this strategy in the holidays so many of us still celebrate today. Christmas, it was placed right on the winter solstice to absorb Roman and Germanic festivals. Easter, it totally absorbed spring fertility rites. The name itself comes from a Germanic goddess, Eostri. And the entire calendar of saints? That was a genius way to allow local gods and spirits to be folded right into the Catholic framework. They just became patron saints.
Now, the Protestant approach, driven by that need for correct belief, was the complete opposite. The whole point of the Reformation was to purify Christianity of what they saw as pagan contamination. And that meant there was just no room for blending or absorption. The strategy was total replacement.
So the really crucial point here is what got lost in that process. The Reformers stripped away the entire toolkit for adaptation. No more saints to map on to local spirits, no Virgin Mary to act as a mother goddess figure, no elaborate rituals to blend with local ceremonies. Protestant missionaries basically showed up with nothing to trade. They demanded that you completely stop being who you were before you could become one of them. So what we have are two completely different models. The Catholic mission was essentially a negotiation, and it only required participation. The Protestant mission, on the other hand, demanded total replacement. It required a complete change in your core beliefs. One was flexible, the other was pretty brittle.
And you can actually see this whole dynamic play out in a really fascinating way if we look at the evolution of Christianity's most famous symbol.
You see, in the first few centuries, the main Christian symbol wasn't the cross at all. It was the fish. It was kind of a secret symbol, an acronym. The cross only really got popular after Emperor Constantine's conversion. But look at that middle step, the Celtic cross. It deliberately fused the Christian symbol with the pre-existing pagan sunwheel.
So why did the cross beat the fish? Well, because it was more syncretistic. The fish was a very specific insider Christian symbol. But the cross, I mean, a simple shape representing four directions, the sun, the organization of space, that was already a powerful symbol in dozens of cultures all over the world. It was basically pre-adapted for global success. The cross itself is a perfect example of successful absorption.
Okay, so let's bring all of this back to our original question about the Americas. How did these two religious operating systems end up creating two completely different worlds?
Well, the Catholic system of focusing on practice created what you could call permeable social boundaries, because conversion was about participation, intermarriage, and cultural blending were just more possible. This led directly to those mestizo societies. Now, these societies had their own brutal racial hierarchies, like the casta system, for sure, but they at least acknowledged that mixing was a reality. The rigid, belief-based Protestant system created hard boundaries, an either-or logic that mapped perfectly onto new, rigid categories of race, demanding separation.
And here is a fascinating irony in all of this. In Spain, this very same permeability allowed for the creation of the Conversos, Jews who were forced to convert but might have kept practicing their old faith in secret. Because the church couldn't verify their internal beliefs, the state got anxious. And what was their solution? Limpieza de sangre, or purity of blood. It was an attempt to enforce a hard boundary where the religious logic had created a soft one, and it's one of the earliest examples of systematic racial thinking in Europe.
And these two operating systems, practice versus belief, they didn't just disappear into history. Their logic continues to echo right through our modern political and social world.
Just look at two major religious political movements today. Liberation theology, which is a largely Catholic thing from Latin America, focuses on orthopraxy, on changing unjust social systems and practices. It's all about what we do for the poor. In contrast, many forms of Christian nationalism draw on an orthodox logic of protecting the pure in-group identity, the community of true believers. It's much more about who you are and what you believe.
Which brings us to a final question to think about. The history we've just walked through seems to show that the most durable and widespread ideas are often the most adaptable ones, the ones most open to blending. Even the central symbol of Christianity, the cross, succeeded precisely because of its ability to merge with other cultures. So given all that, it kind of forces us to ask, what does a demand for cultural or religious purity really mean? And what does that kind of thinking leave behind?